The other week, I was walking through the hallways at our middle school here in Garfield, and I overheard a middle schooler telling her friend how she had stayed up until 2 a.m. helping her little brother with his homework because her mom was working a double shift. And she said, I just hope I don't fail our test today. And I was like, man, this kid is carrying weight that would be heavy for an adult to carry, and she's worried about failing a test. It reminded me of something that I've been learning over and over in this work, is that middle schoolers, they're not problems to be solved, they're people to stand with. So here's a question I want to explore with you today is what does it actually mean to be in solidarity with middle schoolers, especially kids in urban neighborhoods like ours? Because I think we get this wrong a lot. I know I have, and these kids deserve better from the adults in their lives. And as we go deeper, I want to get really honest about some of the harmful things that I'm seeing happen to kids right now. Before we talk about what solidarity looks like, we've got to be honest about what it's not. Because frankly, there's a lot of harmful stuff that's happening to kids right now in the name of helping them. Solidarity isn't swooping in to save kids. It's not looking at students and saying, oh, this poor kid, let me fix them. That's not solidarity. That's pity I think that's pity with a savior complex. And solidarity definitely isn't trying to control or shape kids into what we think they should be. You know what I'm talking about. These adult approaches that are really about compliance and aren't really about connection at all. When adults focus more on making kids fit into our boxes than helping them discover who they are. When we're more worried about kids following our rules than following their own dreams. But here's what I want to get more specific on is some of the most harmful things being done to kids today, especially urban kids, are being done by adults who claim to have their best interests at heart. Sometimes we as adults, we use words like discipline or values, but it's not really about those. It's about controlling kids' identities, about silencing their questions. It's even about policing their self-expression. So when your version of helping kids requires them to shrink themselves or especially this, to accept injustice quietly, then you're not helping, you're controlling. It starts with something surprisingly simple, just showing up and building authentic, real relationships. There's this concept from an organization that I love that's doing great community work, and they call it context for relationships. It's the idea that everything we do should be intentionally designed to foster real connection and trust, not just deliver services or run programs or have a church service or program. I remember this kid who used to come over and skateboard at Aimright almost every single day after school. And for the most part, I would just like walk by and say what's up and then keep going. But one day I stopped, talked to him about his board, and it turns out that he'd been saving for months to buy it, doing some odd jobs in the neighborhood, doing a little hustle, got his board. And we ended up talking for like 20 minutes about skateboarding, but really what we're talking about was like persistence, hard work, working towards something that you want. That conversation happened because I showed up consistently in that space and eventually chose to listen instead of just walking by. So that's what I mean by context for relationships. The skateboarding wasn't the point. The relationship was. What I've been learning about middle schoolers is that they don't need us to have the perfect words or the profound wisdom. They need us to be present with them, hanging with them. They need to know that whatever day that you are going to hang with them, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, is that we're going to be there. Not to lecture them, we're not managing them, but we're there to build authentic, vulnerable relationships where we're learning from each other. And that's sometimes something that we miss is the wisdom and the gift that they have. This can look like, going to their games even when they're sitting on the bench for most of it. It could be hanging out at lunch with them, letting them tell you all about their TikTok drama, even though you understand it. I definitely don't get it all the time. Sometimes it's just being the adult who doesn't immediately jump to solutions or try to fix something when they share something difficult. When we consistently show up without an agenda and listen, we're saying your voice matters, your experience matters, and I'm not going anywhere. Solidarity goes deeper, though, than just listening. Solidarity means sharing the burden, not just cheering from the sidelines or putting up some supportive posts or or just saying things. A while back, one of the students that we work with got suspended for honestly something that should have been handled differently. The situation was escalated by an adult who didn't really take the time to understand. I think there were some biases at play about what this young girl's behavior meant. And now I could just feel bad for her and move on, but solidarity meant using my voice as an adult, as someone with access to decision makers, to advocate for a more restorative approach. It meant calling out the double standard that I saw because, like, let's be real, some of our kids get punished more harshly for the same behaviors that other kids just get warned about. So I went to the meeting, I asked some hard questions about why this particular consequence happened for this specific student. I pushed back a little bit on the policies that weren't serving our kids well, and not just because I thought this student was perfect, didn't do anything wrong, but because she deserves adults who show up when systems aren't working fairly. Something I've learned is that there are adults and institutions right now that are actively working to marginalize kids like ours, to push them out, silence their voices, deny their dignity, and they use words like discipline and order and values, but what they're really doing is protecting systems that were never designed for our urban kids to thrive in. And this is what I mean by a shared struggle. When our students, when they face unjust consequences, when they're not being heard, when systems are set up to push them out instead of invite them in, that becomes our fight too. Like, we don't just stand on the sidelines and feel sorry. We step into the arena with them. Sometimes that means we're going to advocate in meetings, or it's connecting families to resources. Sometimes it's just being the adult who refuses to give up on a kid when everybody else has written them off. Solidarity means using your voice to back theirs when they're not being heard. Here's something important. Solidarity isn't just the heavy lifting. It's not just serious conversations. Some of the most powerful moments of connection and standing with somebody, especially middle schoolers, happen when we're just laughing together and having fun. There's a lot of Friday nights when I'm playing some pickup basketball, and there's always a middle schooler that's ready to trash talk like they're in the NBA. And if we're being real, they kind of have the moves to back it up. But when I'm out there getting schooled by 12, 13, 14-year-olds, something beautiful is happening. We're two people enjoying the game together, and there's no power dynamic, there's no agenda, there's just a shared experience and shared joy. Dignity is built when us as adults see kids as full human beings that are worth enjoying. They're not just projects that we're trying to improve or get them to do better. So whether you're skateboarding, you're eating together, somebody's schooling you in basketball, you're laughing at their jokes, you're celebrating their wins, big, small, no matter what, we're saying we don't just see your potential, we see you as valuable right now. It's not something that you could do, but it's something that we're celebrating who you are right now, the fullness of you. And if we're being real, if I'm being real, I'm a white man working in a neighborhood where most of the students are black and brown. And that matters. And I'm doing everyone a disservice if I don't acknowledge it. And so I've had to learn, and I'm still learning, that solidarity requires humility. There have been times when I thought I knew what a student needed, and I was wrong. Like, really wrong. Times when I jumped in to help and actually, like, embarrassingly made things harder. Even though I had good intentions, they weren't enough because I didn't understand the full context of what a family was navigating, what their experiences was, because it's not my experience. I remember this other meeting where I was advocating for a student, and mom was there. She stopped me mid-sentence and she's like, you don't understand what this looks like from our perspective. So even though I was trying to help, she was right. That was not my role. It wasn't my place. It was hers. So for me, I had to sit back and listen and learn in that situation. And so that's the thing about solidarity, is that it requires me to leverage my own privilege or access or whatever I have, but I can't center myself in the story. I've got to use my voice to amplify their voice, not speak for them. That's a really important distinction to make. It means, being willing to call out other adults when they're causing harm, even when it's uncomfortable. So the work isn't about being the savior or the hero of somebody's story. It's being consistent and being a humble ally who shows up and does whatever is actually helpful, not just what feels good to me. So here's what I want to leave you with. Solidarity with middle schoolers, especially urban middle schoolers in our neighborhoods, is not complicated, but it's definitely intentional. Showing up consistently, listening without an agenda, sharing their struggles by advocating for them when systems aren't fair, celebrating their joy, treating them with dignity right now, not just, believing in their potential for later. And it's doing all of this with humility, knowing that we have as much to learn as we have to offer. Here's my challenge for us, for you. Think about the middle schoolers in your life. Maybe it's your own kids, maybe it's kids in your neighborhood, maybe it's students that you work with. What would it look like to stand in solidarity with them this week? Not over them, not for them, but with them. It could look like showing up to their game, having that conversation that you've been putting off. Maybe it's advocating for them in a space where they don't have a voice yet. These kids, I know that they're carrying more weight than we'll ever know, but they're also dreaming bigger than we realize, and they deserve adults who will stand with them every step of the way. Let's be those adults. What do you think? Drop a comment. Let me know what solidarity looks like in your context. This resonates with you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, because these kids are worth it.